Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the community meeting for District 3. I want to welcome all of you here tonight. As all of you know, this is Robinson Park, and very soon this whole part of the building and other areas of Robinson Park will undergo a $13 or $14 million renovation, and we'll be relocating a significant amount of the services elsewhere, doing that reconstruction and construction. So, the first item on our business for us is our Pledge of Allegiance, so I'd ask all of you to please stand. The Blair High School ROTC, led by Irvin Turner, their sergeant, who is a retired sergeant. We'd like to welcome all of them, and we'd like to acknowledge the fact that on Friday of last week at Veterans Day, Blair High School Color Guard ROTC led that program on the steps of City Hall. They were at least 30 members deep. Tonight, there's a smaller crew, but dedicated nevertheless. And the hands of our Blair High School ROTC, please. Please place your right hand over your heart, and we will all say the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please give a round of applause to the Blair High School ROTC. These are our young people, and every time we have an opportunity to celebrate our young people, that's something that makes sense in terms of building our community and building up our young people. At this time, I'd ask that Reverend William Turner, the senior pastor of New Revelation Missionary Baptist Church, come forward and lead us in an opening prayer.
Thank you, and good evening to all of you. I've been asked to lead us in prayer, but I must say thank you to Mr. John Kennedy, who is one of the best leaders we've had in District 3. What do you say? Amen. He has this community at heart, and he's representing us well. But we need to show up down there to give him a physical show of support for his concern for us. Let us pray. Eternal God, in the name of Jesus, our Christ, we come tonight to thank you for your leadership, for your ever faithfulness to our call. We bless your name at all times, even in the midst of crisis in our nation. We bless your name, and we ask now that you would cleanse our hearts, make us worthy of your grace to serve you with a pure heart. We pray for the community at large. We pray for our unity. We pray for our support of each other. We pray for the official leadership, the police department that serves us. We ask that you would keep them with the mind of community and appreciation for each individual. Give them a heart of concern with justice and mercy in their active duties. We ask now that you would bless this fellowship and this community meeting as Mr. Kennedy give us words of encouragement and hear our cries. We ask this in the name of our God. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Turner. New Revelation Missionary Baptist Church, please say thank you. Okay, just a little bit of ground rules. If there's an emergency, there are 2 exit doors at the rear. There's also an exit door to my right, and the restrooms are behind you and to the east. Before we go any further, I would just like to thank the Pasadena Police Department who's here participating to make sure that everything runs smoothly. They're always in support of my community meetings and they're always present. The police chief would have been here tonight, but they're having a graduation in Orange County and he could not miss that particular graduation, so he sent an extra contingency of his top brass, and I would like to ask that you would simply give them applause for being here with us tonight. A little later, the fire department will assist staff of this facility and my staff and other volunteers in terms of passing out the turkeys to you for those who came for turkeys. We're going to go through the program tonight a little faster than usual because I'm under no illusion. This is one of our largest turnouts each year, and I guarantee you it's not because of just my beautiful face that you're here. That's only part of the equation. You can laugh. Okay. The next item on our agenda is to welcome representatives of the Pasadena Water and Power Underground Program and the Assistant General Manager of the Department of Water, Eric Klinkner. Eric?
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy, and also thank you to Jana West, his aide, for inviting us here tonight. I realize that our presentation is just a bit of an appetizer, so I won't take up too much of your time. What I'm here to talk about tonight is the Underground Program, and this is a program that has been in place since 1968, funded by a surtax on your electric bill. And the monies raised are used to convert overhead power lines, cable, telephone, and put them underground. And once all that's done, the poles are removed. We've taken a look at this program after you may have heard of the misappropriation of funds a few years ago, and a consultant recommended a host of things to make sure that your money is managed wisely and that the program is run very well. One of those recommendations is that the operation be consolidated under a single city department. And so as of July, Pasadena Water and Power has been the overall program manager for the underground program. Before that, it was split between several departments. The other recommendation was that the city take a look at the priorities of the program, the purpose of the program, and determine whether it's met its purpose and should be ended, or whether it should be continued, at what point should it stop. And that's the purpose of these public meetings, is to give the public information that will help them understand what the program's about. In short, we have a 5-minute video. It may be difficult to see tonight. If you are interested, it's on our website and you can see it there. But what you'll find is that there's several categories of streets. The Category 1 streets are main thoroughfares and in business districts and near public places. Those are the priority of the program, and it will take somewhere around 100 years just to complete those streets. The second set of streets are residentials, where their poles are either in the front or in a rear alley. And those will take perhaps as many as 400 years to have enough funding to complete those streets. The overall program is expected to cost about $2 billion. Finally, there's a lot of streets in the city that we probably will never get to. These tend to be where the poles are in the backyard or in private property, and the wires traverse private property. Those are very difficult and very expensive to replace. So with that, we'll go ahead and turn to the video. And afterwards, the Councilmember Kennedy will come up and we'll do a show of hands for 3 options that you will see in this video, which are either continue the program, stop the program and stop collecting the surtax on your bill, or to perhaps double the surtax and try to speed the program up. After the meeting, there will be Water and Power staff, and I want to thank many of them for attending. And in the back where there's those posters of the underground, you can ask questions of staff and get more information. Thank you very much.
The City of Pasadena's underground program began nearly 50 years ago. Since then, many of the city's major streets that have electric circuits and power lines have been undergrounded, which is nearly 50 miles. As a result of the 2015 embezzlement, an external review committee recommended that program oversight be consolidated under a single department to improve financial management and operations. PWP now oversees the program, and it was recommended that the city review the program to determine if the goals have been met and at what point the program should end. In this video, you'll learn about Pasadena's underground program, the benefits and challenges, how the program is funded, timeline for planned activity, and possible options for the future of the program. The Utility Undergrounding Program was established in 1968 with the goal to remove overhead utility lines, such as the electric, phone, and cable lines, and place them under city streets to enhance the reliability of our electric system and to improve public safety. As an added benefit, it has helped to beautify Pasadena. In 2003, the City Council established 2 categories of streets to be undergrounded, Category 1 and Category 2, with the goal of completing Category 1 streets first. The criteria used to define Category 1 include heavily used arterial and collector streets, concentrated near civic areas, landmarks, and public recreation. Category 2 includes residential streets and alleys. It is important to know that not all Pasadena streets will have their utility lines placed underground. In fact, there are about 70 miles of overhead power lines that do not fit within the criteria of Category 1 or 2 and are not suitable to be placed underground. These are primarily homes that have utility poles in the rear of the property. Cost can also be a significant factor in determining whether a street is suitable to be undergrounded, but is not the only factor. There are limitations with access and space needed to bring in equipment and infrastructure. The process of undergrounding overhead power lines includes installing underground vaults, placing switches and transformers, installing underground conduits and cables, all of which need to be installed in different stages. Plus, access to conduct routine testing is also necessary. The entire process takes approximately 5 to 10 years to underground one district. Telecommunications and cable companies are not required to underground for Category 2 streets, so the cost to underground those lines are absorbed by the underground program. Sometimes, coordinating all of the design and cost-sharing details with other utilities can be very complicated and time-consuming, often requiring multiple design revisions. Then there are traffic impacts during construction. Undergrounding a street costs an average of $90,000 per property, or about $10 to $12 million per mile. Actual construction cost will vary depending on a number of circumstances, including type of property to be converted, quality of terrain, and category of street. In short, it would cost about $2 billion to complete all feasible streets in Pasadena. Like any equipment, ongoing maintenance is needed to upgrade and replace aging infrastructure. Repairing aging vaults can be costly but necessary. The maintenance and operating costs for the underground program is funded from electric rate revenues collected from PWP customers. That brings us to our next important point: how the underground program is funded. The program is funded by a tax collected on your electric bill. The underground surtax generates about $5 million per year. It funds roughly 0.5 to 0.7 miles of underground construction per year. At the current pace Pasadena is collecting the surtax, it will take approximately 100 years to complete the 50 miles in Category 1. Work on Category 2 streets would likely not begin for 100 years, and it would take about 400 years from now before the work could be completed. There are benefits to undergrounding overhead electric wires. In addition to safety and aesthetics, there are also fewer power outages with undergrounding. However, underground outages do take much longer to restore. Finding where an underground outage occurred is not easy and are harder to troubleshoot. They often require opening several manholes before the cause of the outage can be located. An outage on an overhead wire is easier to identify, making it easier to do repairs and restore power to our customer more quickly. Since there are both benefits and challenges with the underground program, and we hopefully have provided a better understanding of the timeline and feasibility of the remaining overhead power lines, PWP wants your feedback on how to proceed. Option 1. Continue the undergrounding program at the current pace. At the rate of funds collected at this time, it would take about 100 years to complete the remaining Category 1 streets. Option 2. Stop the surtax. The undergrounding program would discontinue when the funds that have already been collected have been spent on undergrounding-related efforts. Option 3. Increase the surtax to accelerate the program. This means construction would increase. So now it would take 50 years to complete Category 1 streets and an additional 150 years to complete the Category 2 streets. As a PWP customer who helps fund the program, it is important to have your feedback to determine the future of Pasadena's underground program. To learn more and give your feedback, please visit pwpweb.com/undergrounding.
And again, I'm sure that raises many questions as answers in your minds, and we'll have staff available in the back corner of the room after the meeting. And at your leisure, please go back and ask your questions. With that, I'll bring up Councilmember Kennedy to do a quick straw poll.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric. Give Eric a round of applause, please. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now is the time to vote. Okay, all right. All right. The lights are going to come up very slowly, but there are people in the room who are kind of tabulating to see what District 3 residents would like to do in terms of the 3 options. So I'm going to mention the 3 options that are available, but before I mention those 3 options, might I tell the people who happen to be standing in the rear, if you would like to be seated, because the program is going to last for approximately 1 hour before we start handing out turkeys. There's plenty of chairs in the very front if you would like to take advantage of the seating opportunity. So, in the video, it showed 3 possible options. And so, by a show of hands, hopefully all of you are interested. It's nice to have undergrounding so you don't see those ugly wires above ground, and it's actually safer to have the electricity underground as opposed to overhead in some particular areas of our city. But it's not just the undergrounding of electrical wires, it's also the undergrounding of telecommunication wires as well. So, stick with me just for a second. By a show of hands, for those of you who would like to keep the program going, please raise your hand. If you would like to keep the program going, raise your hand high, because staff is taking notice. The program in terms of the undergrounding of the electrical wires and the telecommunication wires. All right. Yeah, keep the program at its current level of funding. Good question. All right. Option 2, end the program now. Option 2, end the undergrounding program now. That's $2 billion if we go through this whole program. So raise your hand high if you'd like to end the program. Okay. All right. All right. It's looking like the national race for the president. Kind of polarized out there. Option 3, increase funding for the program. Increase funding for the program. That means that more neighborhoods will actually receive undergrounding. Okay? Thank you very much for your participation. All right. Now, let's see here. Hello, Lisa, how you doing? How's everything? Thank you for being here. Okay, I want to make some quick introductions before we get to our next speaker. We are fortunate tonight to have a leader in fire science and a member of the Pasadena Fire Department, the chief of the fire department, Bertrand Washington. I saw him. If you would stand, if you're still here. Oh, you didn't know that was you, right? Yeah, I'm talking about you. Expert in the field, Bertrand Washington, who lives in our fine city. Also, I'd like to introduce one of our esteemed department heads, and I won't tell you how long he's been a department head, but I'll just say I'm 55 and he's at least 20 years older than I am, and that's Horace Wormley, Director of Human Services and Parks. Hey, Horace, how you doing? All right, so good to see you. Then I would like to introduce Darrell Walker, who is the supervisor over the park. Darrell, are you in the room? Darrell over there on the side with his staff. Mr. Harmon, we see you. Also, I'd like to introduce Jarvis Emerson, who is the supervisor over the Jackie Robinson Center. Jarvis, are you here? Where are you, Jarvis? Oh, hey, Jarvis.
Okay, we don't have a lost child, we have some lost parents. So if you're a lost parent and you have this lovely one, you're missing this lovely one, can you raise your hand? You know the mother? Okay. I'll be standing in the back of the room with her. What's your name, baby?
Dewanda.
Dewanda. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go to the back so you can just meet me in the back of the room. Thank you, Councilman.
Come on now, parents. Get on the ball. Okay, I'd also like to introduce one of the former top brass of the Pasadena Police Department, who has now taken on a new assignment working for Assemblyman Chris Holden, and that is Falante Riddle, a former lieutenant of the Pasadena Police Department. Now, let me just put in a plug in for my predecessor in this job. If you have any issue at the state level that affects us here locally, you make sure that you contact Falante Riddle. Falante, can I please have your telephone number? 626. Falante, the number, please. 626 351 1917. Now take that number and make sure you tell Chris Holden that I need another $2.5 million to make sure we renovate the pool outside for all the young kids who need access to a pool, okay? I need another $2.5 million, and we can get it. If all of us stick together, we can get another, say it, $2.5 million. I like that, Thank you. Thank you, Falante. All right. Now, also we are blessed tonight to have the acting director of Water and Power, a longtime Pasadena employee, Gurcharan Bawa. Mr. Bawa. He heads the Department of Water and Power. He's the acting general manager. As we progressed in the evening, I'm sure there will be other announcements. At this time, I'd like to bring to the podium one of our top brass in the police department for police updates. Oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. I'd like to bring to the podium our city manager. Can you keep it down in the back in terms of talking? Shh. Steve Vermel, the city manager of the city of Pasadena. Steve? Steve, make sure you keep your presentation to about, yeah, that'll work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. I had a 3-part presentation. I'll make it a 2-part presentation because I know everyone wants to get their turkey. So I'm only going to talk about the first 2 things. I'll hang around for a while if people want to talk about the 3rd item. I'm going to talk a little bit about the budget, talk a little bit about development activity in the city. This is a chart of where our general fund dollars go. The big bars there are the police department, $71 million, and the fire department, about $44 million. The other big bar is essentially debt service. That's $41 million. The rest of the city departments range between $22 million down to about $6 million. So that's where your money goes. These are our expenses and our revenues over the last few years. The problem that we're currently having, if you look on the far right, is we're beginning to spend more money than we're bringing in. In your house, when you spend more than you bring in, you either got to cut back or you got to get more money. It's as simple as that. Works the same way in the city. The good news is the city does have money in the bank. We have what's called fund balance. It's savings, essentially. You look on the left there, before the recession, we had about $47 million in the bank. During the recession, in addition to making a lot of cuts in the city, we used that savings to cushion the impact of the recession. And since then, we've been able to build it back up. The little star there, the $47 million, that's our target. We want to have 20% of the budget in the bank. So that's about 2.5 months worth of spending, if you look at it that way. On the right-hand side, you see it starts to go down a hill. That's our current projection. If we don't do something to bring spending in line with our revenues, we're going to start dipping into the savings. That's going to be a problem. A lot of numbers on the screen here. The only important number is the number in the red. We all know what red means. Red's not good. So that shows that next year, which starts July 1, next summer, if we don't do something, we'll be in the hole about $3 million next year. So Councilmember Kennedy and his colleagues on the City Council I'm working with to make sure that we close that gap. And you can see it just gets worse the years after that. So we've already made some reductions. The City Council cut $2.1 million out of the budget mid-October. We took some low-hanging fruit. We eliminated 7 vacant positions. There was no impact on anybody's services. That was the good news. The more difficult news is it gets harder to cut the budget the deeper you have to go. We're trying to enhance revenues, and I'm going to talk about some of the things in a minute that help contribute to our revenues. But if we can't get there on the revenue side, we're going to have to get there by reducing expenses. We're moving methodically through the budget. We're identifying areas that we can reduce, and this will be an ongoing process. After the mayor does his State of the City speech in January, I plan to have a series of community meetings. We'd love to have you come out and hear a little bit more about the budget. I just wanted to give you a little taste of it this evening. So now let's talk about development a little bit. There's a lot of development going on in the city. At some point in time, we expect a recession will occur and that development activity will taper off, but for now, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of new office projects. This project, the Lincoln Parsons project, is in District 3. It's the area that surrounds Parsons headquarters. It would be roughly 1 million square feet of development, 475 housing units. Near Earth Cafe on the west is a medical office building. And then the Eisenberg building on Walnut and Fair Oaks, also in District 3. It has a very interesting look to it. If you go by there, check it out. And then we have these co-working locations. People aren't using traditional offices much anymore. They want a place that's nicer than Starbucks, looks like an office, and if you notice what used to be the AT&T building now has a giant sign on there that says, "We Work." That's a co-working place where people can come in, join, and have like a shared office facility, becoming very popular. Of course, we have a lot of great institutions in the city. We have the HMRI lab currently being built down Arroyo near the hospital. Kaiser is going to build a medical school, their very first medical school, Los Robles and Green Street. The Shriners Hospital, also down near the hospital, the Huntington, is being completed, and that's going to be a great facility to help young children with the care that they need. And then the Art Center College of Design, they have a campus up on the hill, but they also have a campus down by our power plant, and they are planning a very, very exciting project down there to house a number of students and have classroom space. Very exciting. A lot of hotel projects. The City Council recently approved a 375-room hotel at Colorado and Hill. The Kimpton Hotel project, also in District 3, in addition to building a new hotel, would result in an investment of about $14 million into restoring the historic Julia Morgan YWCA building. It's such a tragedy to walk by that building, see how dilapidated it is. This project would restore the building to its grandeur, be a fabulous project for the city. The Hyatt Place, Green and Los Robles. And then also within District 3 at Lake and Union, a proposal for a hotel and condominiums. And then the Duzick Constance Hotel, Phase 2 is going on. A lot of multi-unit housing being built in the city. The Union Village project, 118 units. Over at Walnut and Allen, former Davis Lumber project, 131 apartment units and some mixed-use retail. Out on the east end of town, 3330 Foothill, just got completed. It's 212 units. And over here, also in District 3 on Walnut, next to the newly opened Residence Inn, is another apartment complex with 200 units. Again, the Lincoln Properties project, biggest project in the city for many, many years. Over on the east side, the Space Bank project, which is currently self-storage, will become housing units. And then on the north end, on Colorado and Los Robles, housing associated with the Paseo project, and again, the Hyatt Place Hotel on the back end. A few more projects, Union and Madison, some infill projects here and there. And the key to all this is the strategy of the City Council is to focus development in really the city's urban core, put it around the transit centers so people can circulate without a car, don't have as much impact on our outer neighborhoods, and have a city that is both a neighborhood and then very vibrant urban inner setting. So that's great. So that's it, and I'm done.
Okay, it's rare that the city manager would have time to come be with us. Hello, hello? Hello, hello. So I'd like, hello? So I would like to take a couple of questions from the audience for our city manager. I'm gonna take a moment here to introduce another gentleman.
Yes.
I believe one of our former commanders of the Pasadena Police Department was here, Rick Law. Rick, can you please stand? Rick, Thank you. Rick Law grew up in this community. Some multi-millionaire, he's so rich, I don't know what to say. Lord have mercy. Sorry, Rick, I didn't mean to put you out there like that. Okay, just kidding. First question for our city manager.
I remember in Long Beach, they were developing the density of people, and they ended up computing that it cost more than they were taking in. Do we do the analysis showing that as you increase the density of people, you're actually bringing in more income than you're expending on the schools and all the services necessary to support these buildings?
So was the question? Oh, does development pay for itself? Oh, okay. If I understood the question is, does development essentially pay for itself? Is that your question? Or does it cost more? Okay, so essentially the development does pay for itself, particularly the hotels. We receive a transient occupancy tax from the hotels, and we recently approved a change with our sharing of that with the conference center. So for every new hotel that gets built, the general fund will benefit more from that. In terms of the other units that get built, residential units, we receive property tax, we receive utility users tax, and we receive other revenues. So yes, development does pay for itself, and it helps the city provide the other services that we need. Our budget is accessible. You can see the annual revenues.
Next question, excuse me. Lisa.
Thank you. Hello, Mr. City Manager. My name is Lisa Mann, and I'm here tonight as a resident of the District 3 neighborhood of Garfield Heights. I'm here to express to you that Neighborhood Connections is a wonderful, essential community resource that bridges communication between neighborhoods and improves the overall quality of life here in Pasadena through its many programs. Our neighborhood in the city of Pasadena in its entirety would be negatively impacted by the loss of this vital award-winning office. 2 weeks ago, our Neighborhood Association Board of Directors learned that the city currently has no plan in place for the future of Pasadena's Neighborhood Connections Office and all of their activities, effective December 2nd. Nor have you begun a search for a new program coordinator. I'm not going to go into all the ways that Garfield Heights is impacted by Neighborhood Connections, but I will mention a couple of things. One is Safe Streets Now. Safe Streets Now has been in cases that have been resolved, drug dealing, the removal.
I think I understand your question, and I appreciate you asking it because it allows me to clarify some information. There's a rumor that come December 2nd, the Neighborhood Connections office is closing. That's not true, and Horace Wormley may join me up here. We did bring Brian Berry, who many of you know. Brian Berry did come in on a temporary assignment to assist us during a particularly busy time. His temporary assignment is winding down. That's the only change that's occurring as of December 2nd. The office is still there, still in the Human Services Department, and staffed. No, Horace and his staff are continuing to operate the programs. I will say, in the greater context of the budget, we are having to assess the various programs that we offer, but any notion that come December 2nd, the program ends is not true. And the prior coordinator left some time ago, and there was no person in that position. The duties were being maintained by Mr. Wormley's staff, and we brought Mr. Berry in for an interim period. So you shouldn't confuse the two. And I'm happy to speak with you offline.
Excuse me. Wait. Hello? Let me recognize two things. One, The city manager said he's willing to stay after and talk to you, and I believe that's still good. Secondly, the Director of Human Services and Parks is here, Horace Wormley, who's also here to address the questions that you asked, Lisa. And then, out of respect for the limited amount of time that we have tonight, I would just ask that you have that conversation, but it's certainly a conversation that all of us need to be a part of, and I thank you for asking the question. Now, additional questions. We're going to have 2 additional questions, and we're going to move the program forward. All those other speakers had that particular question. Okay. Hello, it's working.
I am Anna Woods, a resident of Northwest Pasadena. I've been a resident in this area for more than 50 years. And the last meeting we were at, we were talking about the heritage apartments that was going to be open to seniors and low income. And I have some observations and some concerns because I find that there are occupants already in the heritage apartment buildings, which are with a black minority. I think it's about 5 out of the 27. And I know that we all receive lottery tickets, but I understand that these people came in without any lottery tickets. We who are on lottery tickets are the ones that follow the rules to fill out the application and wait for an answer for it. And we are still waiting, and the apartments are filling, and I'm concerned because the, Northwest Pasadena, and I wonder how can the city go about seeing that the residents of Northwest Pasadena, like was promised to them, would be able to get apartments rather than bringing in people from Alhambra.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. The Heritage Square project, I think we can all agree it's a great looking project, and it was many, many years in the making. We're glad that it's there. Extremely high demand for the limited number of units that are there. And we will be I think I'm okay. It was very much oversubscribed in terms of the number of people who want. Putting out through the council member's office, we'll be disseminating information so everyone can understand who got units, whether they lived in Pasadena, whether they worked in Pasadena. Unfortunately, there's not enough units to meet the demand, but I want everyone to understand that the selection process was fair, and we'll be sharing that information with the community. We'll be doing it through the council member's office. Unfortunately, we just weren't able to meet the demand.
Last question. Hello? Hello? Last question, please. Excuse me, just one moment, please. Do you want? Oh. What was your question? You have a question? This is the last question.
Yeah, what about all these young people running around here homeless like me, sleeping in cars and stuff over a year? Well, I mean, what are you doing with the families of the young people that's homeless running around here and the citizens, senior citizens that need places? John.
Oh. Yes, ma'am. I really think that was a question for me.
So, if I understood the question is, what's the city doing to help people who are homeless? And the Pasadena City Council, in particular, are doing a lot more than a lot of other cities. If you go into the Civic Center, the YMCA building, Centennial Place, 147 units is formerly homeless people. Over on the east end of town, Marv's Place just opened, houses 64 people, all formerly homeless, 32 of them children. And Councilman Kennedy have made a strong commitment to building permanent supportive housing. There's not enough of it. It's very expensive to develop, but this community and people have made a commitment to it, and they are building this. We're working with private property owners to open their doors to more Section 8. People get Section 8 vouchers, but then can't find anyone who will take it. So we need the private sector, the property owners, to be willing to take those vouchers, and that's another high priority.
Thank you. Hello? Hello. Okay, thank you very much. And I think the last speaker raises a very serious concern, and basically is how can we build more housing for folks who need it in our community. As you know, redevelopment law took a tool away from local governments to fund affordable housing. The city of Pasadena has made a strong commitment to do just what the speaker has requested, and that is develop more affordable housing. I'd be the first to admit that it's inadequate. However, we're making measured steps to address the problem. Also, on the second site south of Heritage Square, that was 69 units of affordable housing on the northeast corner of Orange Grove and Fair Oaks. We're going to build housing there as well. There is an opportunity for a multiplicity of housing there that could, in fact, address some of the issues that the young lady just spoke of. There is no quick fix to this very serious problem, but I guarantee all of you in the audience, that all of the members of the City Council take this issue with the highest concern. Now we're going to move the program forward. I'd like you to give our city manager a round of applause to make sure that he comes to my next community meeting. No. The next speaker for The next speaker for tonight is John Mercado, who will give us police updates. He is the service area lieutenant in District 3. Please welcome John Mercado.
Good evening. So I'm going to try to find the sweet spot where this mic will work for those that come behind me, so we're not cutting in and out. My name is John Mercado, and I am the lieutenant for the northwest part of the city of Pasadena, which includes a large portion of District 3. I wanted to hit on just a couple things before we move the program on to the next speaker. The first is the biggest initiative that the police department has just completed is the deployment of our body-worn cameras. I'm wearing one. My colleague Lieutenant Luna is wearing one. My colleague Lieutenant Ibarra and her folks are somewhere, and they're all wearing them. We deployed these a month sooner than what they were supposed to be deployed, so that was a lot of effort, in particular on Lieutenant Ibarra's, her and her folks. The vast majority of the stakeholders have reviewed the policy. Currently, we're working under a draft policy. The policy will go before the Public Safety Committee on Monday. So any of you who have an input or want to hear more about it, please, you're more than welcome to show up. And I do believe right now, at least scheduled, that's going to be the last public airing of the policy, and we're hoping to have it completed and made permanent shortly thereafter. One of the things I think that that's important for people to understand is similar to our MAVs, or I'm sorry, to our dash cams. When our body cameras are on, they're passively recording all the time. So when an officer powers it to actively record, it's going to go back and capture the last 30 seconds of the past. That 30 seconds will not have an audio to it, because of how it's engineered and the storage capacity and everything. The passive recording that's constantly going is just video. So when an officer turns on the recorder to actively record an incident, it will go back and capture the last 30 seconds. There will be no audio, just video. And the moment the officer turns the body-worn camera on, from that point forward, video and audio will be married together. So I just wanted to make that, let you all know about that, in case in the future there is a video that needs to be reviewed. People have an understanding that the first 30 seconds of it will just be a visual. There won't be any audio to that. And that's how these are engineered for space. Reporting on crime. So for the month of October, District 3 fared very, very well. Out of the 7 council districts, District 3, which you may know is split by the 210. So there's a large portion of it that's north of the freeway in the northwest part of Pasadena, and there's a portion of it in Midtown, south of the freeway. We came in 4th out of all 7 districts in reportable crimes. Our total reportable crimes for the month of October was 50. And a further breakdown of that 50, 23 occurred north of the freeway, so what we would consider in the northwest part of Pasadena, and 27 occurred in Midtown. So it was a pretty good month for District 3 crime-wise. Year to date, however, District 3 is second highest in reportable crimes for all of the council districts. So good news is we're not number 1, but that is pretty high. So that is what our crime picture looked like. And for any of you who may be interested, I won't bore you with all the numbers, but of the 50, theft was the highest crime that occurred last month with 16, and followed by domestic violence with 7. So those were the 2 top crimes that occurred in District 3 for last month. And then the last thing I would just want to share with you and implore you, so far this year, we've had 8 fatal collisions. Some of those involve auto and ped, some are solo auto accidents, some are auto and auto. But that number is astronomically high. And especially now at this time of the year, as it's getting dark earlier, we have more people out because 4 o'clock, almost 5 o'clock, you still have kids who are coming home from after school programs, people coming home. Please be very, very careful and cognizant when you're driving with, again, the change of lighting and all. 8's too many. I would like us to not have any more for the rest of this year, but that's only going to be reliant upon how cognizant and aware and careful we are as we're driving. So please look out for others and drive defensively. Please don't use your cell phones. That's been a cause and a problem in a lot of our accidents. So that number's too high, and we need to do something about it. So I'm going to ask that you drive much more carefully as we move forward into the holiday season. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Give Lieutenant Mercado a round of applause. Again, thank you. And I would simply like to say, as it relates to the uptick in crime in District 3, that we are working with the Pasadena Police Department to address those issues. Specifically, commercial burglary has caused the significant uptick. I do not want District 3 leading those negative indicators. So I'm working closely with the Pasadena Police Department for them to focus the necessary attention to help us bring down those crime statistics. They are independently looking at the crime statistic in District 3 to predictive of where crime may take place so they can deploy resources accordingly. So rest assured, our police department is actively engaged with dealing with those types. Hello? Okay. The next speaker is Conrad Viana, the principal engineer of the Department of Transportation, and he is going to talk to us very briefly about the bicycle kiosk. And as he prepares to come and talk to us about that, I would simply like to say that the initial presentation that came before the City Council showed that most of the kiosks would be south of the freeway. And I have asked staff to look at census data to determine where north of the freeway we can put more than just 4 or 5 kiosks. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you have been in other cities where you can find a bicycle by renting a bicycle and maybe start in one section of the city and return that bicycle in another part of the city. So here to talk to us about the program is Conrad Viana, the principal engineer of the Department of Transportation.
Good evening. My name is Conrad Viana, engineer with Department of Transportation, Complete Streets Division. And I'm here to talk about the Metro Phase 2 bike share program that they will be having in July 2017. So a quick background, we applied for and received a grant from Metro in 2015 to have this program on board. And Metro will be managing the program. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to provide a first mile, last mile connection between your house or home to your final destination place of business or a resident or any retail or other establishment that you'd like to have in Pasadena. So essentially this graph describes how it is, how it operates. You either start from your home or your place of business. And if it's too far to walk to a train station, bus station, or some form of transit, you could use a bike in our bike station as a connection instead of walking. So Metro's program is trying to go as far east as Claremont and as far west as Venice. And Port of Long Beach, Venice, and the city of Pasadena are in Phase 2. There's a 3-part fare structure for this program. There's a $20 fare structure where you have unlimited 30-minute trip increments, a $40 annual program where each trip is $1.75 for 30 minutes, or a walk-up program where it's $3.50 every 30 minutes. What Metro is trying to do is to have it integrated into their TAP system such that if you want to take the bike and ride transit within that 30-minute time frame, the $1.75 will still apply. So this goes in line with the city mobility goal of being a city where you could circulate without a car. So the way that the bike share was implemented, the Metro hired a consultant to determine the appropriate pricing structure, as well as they looked at different bike share suitability index, wherein it would evaluate the density, employment centers, population per acre, the number of intersections, as well as the anticipated transit service frequency. Yeah, I'll just talk about this. So what Metro did with their consultant is they determined where those different elements were, and the density, housing, and employment centers, as well as the transit frequency, and et cetera. They determined that most of it is high. The blue areas are where it's high. The dark blue is high. The middle area is where it's light blue. And the low frequency are definitely the reds and the browns that you see here in the map. So as you can see, based on the analysis that the consultant had did for Metro, most of the locations are centralized in the downtown south of the freeway. So they did a crowdsourcing survey of these areas, and what you see here is where people have provided their input, and as you can see, most of it is located within the central district. So the implementation, as I mentioned, is July 2017. There's 34 locations that we're committed to provide locations for Metro to install their services. And this is essentially what they look like. They're black and fluorescent green. So their siting station criteria, as I mentioned before, is based on different elements. Density, the network connectivity between the housing, between rail and transit. It has to be accessible by pedestrians. They want to site these stations within 5-minute walking distance from each other, such that if any of these stations are full, they could walk another 5 minutes to be able to dock the station that you're using, and basically return them. And also, we have a vendor that will be rebalancing these bikes to ensure that all of these locations will have bikes or will not be full enough for people who are planning on returning the bikes at a certain location. So the proposed bike share locations that is in this map, as well as in a map in the back. I also have this 11 by 17 of this map in the back as well for you to review. And as you can see here, most of them are in mixed use, where there's a lot of residential, office, and retail. There's 8 in commercial. There's 6 locations within the Gold Line station. There's 4 institutions, colleges. There's 3 in the parks. There's 2 in the Civic Center, the Pasadena Library area, and the City Hall. And there's 1 at the Huntington Memorial Hospital. So the launch is expected in the summer of 2016, and we are proposing we're presenting the locations to City Council in December 12th. My contact information is here, as well as in the back. I have my business cards out there. And if you have any questions or even suggested locations, I want to make this a collaborative process. So if you have suggested locations, you could let me know via email, or you could pick up my business card in the back, and I could hang out in the back a little bit if you guys would like to discuss further. And also there's a map there where you could maybe just circle or highlight where you would like them. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Viana. I'd like all City of Pasadena staff to raise your hand and be recognized. Let's give a round of applause for all of our city staff. Our police department, fire department, Department of Public Works, transportation, fire department. Any other departments I missed? Human Services and Recreation. One ticket per family, 1 turkey per family. Let's see. Anything else? Okay. When you see the staff, for those of you who are going in the multi-purpose room, it's holiday time. This is an opportunity for us to be neighborly with one another. A lot is happening in our country nationally that's ugly. In Pasadena, we do better. So just say thank you to the people who are assisting you, whether they're bringing the turkey to you or if you're picking it up in the multi-purpose room. please do that to show who you are, to show your heart. Also, I'd like to introduce my two district liaisons, Susana Porras. Susana, she's in the back there, speaks Spanish fluently, speaks French fluently, and speaks Careza fluently. And then Jana West. Jana West. And let's see. I think I've covered almost everyone. Would all of you give yourselves a round of applause? And I just want to thank those who had the courage to ask some very difficult questions. Now, if you would, welcome Brandon Fisher, the pastor of First AME Zion Church, and then I will dismiss you in sections to pick up your turkey.
Good evening. Let us pray. God, for this day, we give you thanks. We ask, oh God, that as we enter into the holiday season, that you would shower us with your love, with your joy, and with your peace. We thank you for the council member, and for his liaisons, and for all of those who work with and in the city of Pasadena. God, would you continue to be with us, and God, even in the face of turmoil and chaos, God, be with us until you call us home. So God, for every blessing you have given us and will give us, we give you praise, glory, and honor. This is our prayer in the name of the one who saves, heal, and deliver, Jesus the Christ. And the people of God said together, amen.